Mario, look,
What's on? What's going on?
we're we're
What's
here.
happening? What's
We're
that?
here.
I'm
It's
home.
noon. We're here. It's a big
It's
day, right?
it's a
Today's a big day.
Monday.
It is a
Yes.
Monday, but it's on the eve and cusp of Buffalo Bills roster cuts. We're starting to see some cuts come in. So we wanted to go live because Mario called me and we were just yakking on the phone. And there's some important details to cover, Mar. We
There
got important
are.
details to cover.
Paul, it's not this isn't we're not talking Burger King versus McDonald's. This is not PS5 versus Xbox. This is not any of this other stuff. We are talking purely about being informational today, talking about when a player is waived versus when a player is released. Now, a lot of you may know this already, but we just wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown and cover a few things after that. But it's really good to be here. I can't wait to talk about this and get the differences that go on because ladies and gentlemen, I have said this to Paul in the car. I was like, oh, when they released this guy, and Paul would just snarl at me and give me this look because he's like, he's getting waived, not released. And there is a very specific difference to that.
Yeah, big time difference. Big time difference. So all that's important. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Matthias is on. Hey, I haven't seen Matthias on in a while. What's going on?
I gotta pull up my YouTube. That's what
I know, right? Let's see, Matthew Ronkowski. Hey, even Matt Harmon's joining us. So hey everybody. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what it means to be waived versus released and kind of all the roster gymnastics are going to happen with the Bills because here's the deal, right? The Bills have about 38 players on the injury report right now. That is an exaggeration, but it's probably about 20, right? So like you've got Bates with the hand, Dane Jackson with the neck, Stephon Diggs with a knee, Isaiah McKenzie with a shoulder, Milano with a mouth. Milano has a mouth injury. When was the last time you saw mouth on an injury report, Mario? Ever? I don't think I've ever seen mouth.
Last time I went to Brazzers. Sorry. It's a family show.
It's noon on a Monday. It's noon on a Monday. All right. So here's kind of the deal, right? With Buffalo and looking at how you build this roster, you have to find a way to get players on IR. So let's kind of start the conversation there. If you have a player that's injured, like Forrest Lamp as an example, got put on an IR by Buffalo.
Yes.
What's the deal with Forrest Lamp now? If you need him in week 8, can the Bills designate him to return?
They can. I believe they did a very similar thing. And if guys, I think Paul retweeted it. No, didn't you retweet what Sal talked about with Mongo last year?
Yes, but Mongo made the roster. So here's the deal. If you're put on IR before the 53-man roster, your season's done. Unless you're released with an injury settlement, you're done. You can't come
Which
back.
would be the case with Duke Williams, correct?
Right. Yep, okay. Exactly. So Duke Williams was released with an injury settlement, and that way the Bills could bring him back at a later time. He gets an opportunity to sign with another team. But if you're put on IR prior, like Voshon Joseph, remember Voshon Joseph? He got put on
how can we
IR.
Forget?
I know, right? He got put on IR prior to the 53-man roster, which means his season was done. He was not released with an injury settlement, so the Bills couldn't bring him back. So his season was just done.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you have to designate your 53 has to be locked in first before you can release and add and put a guy on IR. So it's almost like putting from different piles. So what you're saying is in the case of last year, Mongo made the 53. They put him on the IR designated to return, and they signed 2 players back that they had formerly either released or waived.
Yep, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. So you're going to run into the same thing here, where you have a lot of players who are injured, and you've got players that maybe you want to put on IR. You got to figure out a way to get them there, right? So who's got to go? And I think Sal Capaccio had a great tweet. He talked about this earlier today. That's the tweet that you're referencing. He talked about this earlier. If you try and let's say Marquez Stevenson, maybe that's a player you actually do intend on keeping, but you're like, listen, we got to cut somebody because we got to put Ryan Bates on IR with his hand. He's going to miss 6 weeks, but we don't want to lose Bates. So we'll just cut Stevenson and then that'll be fine. We'll keep Bates on the 53-man roster. We'll put him on IR and then we'll just sign Marquez Stevenson back. No problem solved, right?
Yeah.
No, problem
In
not solved.
in theory, that could work, couldn't it?
Well, remember, rookies are subject to 4-year
Waivers.
contracts. That's
No,
right.
so they would have to cut or release, quote unquote, a veteran
Mhm.
in order to do that. If you have less than 4 years of service in the NFL, which Stevenson obviously does,
Yeah.
he has less than 4 weeks. You would have to waive any player that has
Right.
less than 4 years of service. So
Right.
you're going to be flying around trying to look at these guys that, and just to let everybody know, as far as the waivers go, Paul, they still go based on the draft, correct?
Yep.
So currently, right now, as of the draft, the Jaguars would have the first crack at Stevenson if he was to get waived, basically.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So let's just throw it out there just as an example, right? Let's say you want to keep Ryan Bates, but you're like, listen, we've got to let a running back go that we intend on bringing back. Let's just say it's
Taiwan Jones.
Love it.
Go.
Great example. This is a great example. So let's say Taiwan Jones. You're going to cut Taiwan Jones. You're going to release him because you're going to keep Ryan Bates. Tomorrow, you're going to put Ryan Bates on IR. You're going to sign Taiwan Jones back. That works. The Bills did it with Andre Roberts, right? That works. He's got more than 4 years of NFL experience. Now, let's say you want to do it with Antonio Williams. What's going to happen, Mar?
He is going to be subject to waivers where the other 31 teams could have a crack at him before and if he clears waivers, then the Buffalo Bills could conceivably bring him back. However, any team that claims a player with less than 4 years experience off waivers, they get the current contract of that player, correct?
Right. Yep. Okay. And don't forget, if the player's claimed off of waivers, they have to make the other team's 53-man roster. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like when you sign a player off of another team's practice squad in season, they have to go on your 50. You can't sign them to your practice squad and be like, oh, we got him now. Right. No, they have to go on your 53. Okay.
Exactly. All same rules apply, right? And that's why the Bills are such a wild example because they've got so many young players. And this is sort of the problem when you draft a lot of players that you intend on keeping. This kind of roster gymnastics is really difficult, right? Because you're going to have to cut veterans that you plan on keeping in order to keep players who are currently hurt, who you're going to put on IR. And then you're kind of hoping those veteran players don't get a better offer somewhere else. Like,
yeah, that's the risk you run with these veteran players, because as a veteran player, and in the sense of that, we're talking about over 4 years of service in the NFL. Now, there could be guys that have been in the league for about 5-6 years that don't have 4 years of service. We have to remember that as well.
Yep.
So, how long's Davis Webb been in the NFL, Paul?
Like, God, what seems like forever.
He does. He's feeling he's been here for 10 years. Like, he's been on the practice squad forever.
Oh.
No, but I don't know how many how many years he has vested. You said you have to be on the practice squad at least 6 weeks to accrue a year. So yeah, he's obviously done that. So William Oliver, what's up, my brother?
Yes, sir. Beers tonight. Thank you so much.
Applause for Paul.
And we're going to use that $20, and Mario and I are going to use that for some twisted teas at the hashtag sports golf tournament, September 11th.
Yes. I can't wait to fly around in a golf cart and just totally
I know it's going to be so great.
Say hello to everybody. Okay, so Paul, to break this down a little bit, that we're talking about it. 2017 draft for Webb. Okay, I'm just messing around, Matthew. Thank you, buddy. But as we're talking about it right now, if you have less than 4 years of service, you are subject to waivers. Any team can claim you. If you have over 4 years of service, you can be released and then immediately put back if you have a verbal agreement with the Bills. Paul, we have seen, unfortunately, I'm going to bring that dirty name up. We have seen the New England Patriots for years do this, where they have 25, 30 guys on IR. Just stashing them. You're saying, okay, well, if when they were in the midst of their winning, my point was that they were telling these veterans that they would acquire, hey, we'll cut you, put you back on, put you on IR, just so we could do that. You're on the 53, we'll put you on IR because we want to bring somebody else back and whatnot. But that is a very interesting part.
Ooh. Mar, I just thought about something. So think about this, right? Mark Hayes brought up a question that actually made me think about this for a second. He says, do you think this team has what it takes to beat the record for team sacks in a year of 72? And you look at the resources the Bills put into the defensive line, and you have to start believing that, right? But in your roster gymnastics, right? Let's take an example of Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, right? Both of them are basically guaranteed at this point, right? But don't forget, a vested veteran on the roster as of week 1, their salary becomes fully guaranteed, right?
That is true.
Mario Addison already has guaranteed money this year.
He
You
does.
could cut Mario Addison as part of your 53-man cut down. You're already paying him. There's no difference. And then you could bring him right on back. Money's still the same. It's a wash. You're already guaranteeing Mario Addison's salary. Don't be shocked if Mario Addison gets cut and then immediately brought back as part of the 53-man cut down. When Mario Addison gets cut and Bills Mafia loses their mind, like, oh my God, the Bills actually cut Mario Addison. Wait for it. Wait till the next day, because his contract's guaranteed. So yeah. I'd imagine that's a perfect example of a player that you could cut and immediately bring back the next day. His salary is guaranteed anyway. It's a wash.
I love how you say roster gymnastics. It's so funny. And for those of you scoring at home, because of the 17-game season, that would be 4 a game. So the Buffalo Bills, with the increased passing in the NFL, I expect a lot of records to be shattered this year, even though there's 1 extra game. So that's a discussion for another day. But that is what you may see some surprising roster cuts of guys that just get brought back immediately. Why didn't they do that with? No, they couldn't have done that last year with what's his name, Trent Murphy. Who was the running back they did that with? Was it Jerome Felton?
Oh yeah,
where they brought him back after week 1 because
Jerome Felton. They cut him and kept baby Gronk for week 1, and then brought Jerome Felton back week 2, and then his salary wasn't guaranteed anymore. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Salary's not guaranteed if you're brought back after week 2. So I don't know if Mario Addison would agree to that in principle, getting cut and coming back.
Right. Yeah. Hey, happy hashtag anniversary to Donnybrook. His logo changed, so he's now got the good hashtag logo, which you can get that if you see people in the chat with that little hashtag logo. They've hit the join button. You can do so as well. Hit that join button. Become a member of Hashtag Nation. So, Matthew Ronkowski, does guaranteed contracts such as Butler and Addison make them more attractive trade candidates? Typically, no, right? Unless Buffalo's going to pick up a chunk of that guaranteed money. Typically, guaranteed contracts make it harder to deal a guy because the salary is guaranteed. Normally, a team that has a player that had a lot of signing bonus money, those players are easier to trade. But players with high guaranteed salary, harder to trade because the team that's acquiring them has to take on that salary. That's the deal there.
Yeah, the way that it works, his cap number is 8.1. He's got $4 million in guaranteed salary. Yeah. And as we mentioned multiple times on the show, what we talked about before is, guys, when a player gets traded, as you know, the team that is trading him away, why there's dead money, that's the bonus that they have. The team has to eat that. So what you're looking at, if you're looking at a player getting traded, such as a Buffalo Bill or a player getting traded to Buffalo, you got to look at their base salary.
Right.
Because that is what was so alluring about Stephon Diggs last year was, I think it was when he got traded, everyone talked about his contract, but the base salary was like, what, $9-10 million, I think, Paul? I can't remember the exact number, but
yeah, right.
You have to look at the base salary number. Obviously, we use over the cap. You can use spot track, but the point was the base salary is what you're looking at when you're looking at some of these guys getting traded.
Right.
Bills would have to eat the bonus.
So I guess kind of the crux of what we're trying to say, Mar, is when we look at this 53-man cut down, right? And as you see players get cut now, you're going to see a lot of younger players get cut now, right? Put on waivers early. There's no reason to wait on that, right?
Guys you haven't seen in the preseason yet probably will get cut because nobody saw them. You put them on your practice squad.
So you can waive those players now, totally fine. But don't be shocked if you see Buffalo keeping a younger than anticipated roster, because don't forget, they have to retain those younger players because they don't want to put them on waivers. They put them on waivers, they're likely to lose them, as opposed to a veteran who could just say, no, I'm not going anywhere. No, I don't want to sign. A rookie doesn't have that ability. A rookie can't decline a waiver claim. If Cleveland claims them, they're going to Cleveland. If Jacksonville claims them, they're going to Jacksonville. And Buffalo doesn't probably want to take that chance. So when you see that 53-man roster, don't be shocked when it's loaded with really young players, and then you see those players, yeah, they'll retain on the roster, but you may see them waived at a later time as Buffalo tries to slide into the practice squad. I guess that's sort of the other piece, Mario. In order to get a player on your practice squad that is on those rookie deals, what do you have to do to get them on your practice squad? You can't just say, "Hey, you're on our practice squad now."
No, they have to be subject to waivers. You have to waive them, and they'll still have their current contract. You bring them back, and then they be I don't know the logical progression that goes through, Paul. They become an exclusive rights next year. Then they become a restricted so their contracts their 4-year contract. Like if they were drafted, like we talked about, let's just use Dane Jackson as an example.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was drafted in the 7th round. If he were to get waived last year,
which he did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And then he got put on the practice squad, which he did. Now that 4-year contract that he signed is gone now, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Okay.
Sure
so
is.
then he becomes an exclusive rights free agent, then a restricted free agent, then an unrestricted free agent after, a certain number of years. So in order to get a lot of these young players onto your practice squad, now you got to remember the Bills are coming into the season after going 13-3. They didn't come into this after going 4-12. So there's going to be some eyes on this team for some of the players to try to poach.
Sure.
So what you're going to try to do is, just as Paul said, if a team wants to claim a Buffalo Bills player that gets waived, they have to put them on their 53. Okay. So what of the young players that you see on this team, I don't want to say specific names. I'll just say, but what of these younger players on this team could the Bills waive that won't get picked up on that aren't like a part of a 53-man roster on another team? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So that's the thing you got to look at as well.
Yeah, this is a nasty time of year because while you're trying to fill out that practice squad, every time you try and move a player to the practice squad, you're giving every other team in the league a chance to just snatch them up on their current contract. So all that value that you have of drafting them is now gone. You just donated a player to another team. And yes, they're going to cut somebody else. But if you're looking around the league and you're like, man, there's like 4 teams who are like returner hungry. Do we want to try and get Stevenson on the practice squad, or can we not take that chance right now?
Yeah.
You may hold on to a player like Stevenson past that initial 53-man cut and say, okay, let's let the roster settle, and then let's try and move them there in a little bit of time, right? When those positions are already filled and teams might be less interested in trying to snatch them. Yeah, if you're looking at players, this is a tough sell right now. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. They're going to have the initial 53-man roster is not going to be the team you see week 1. There's going to be some additional moves that are coming along with it. Players that are cut, I would imagine you're going to see some of them come back before week 1.
This reminds me of our dynasty league in fantasy football where, hey, I'm going to get rid of this player. Do you want him? I'll trade you. So that's why there hasn't been probably a lot of news coming out of One Bills Drive right now, is because there's probably discussions to trade some of these players away. Bean, Big Baller Bean, he's going to make moves. He's a mover and a shaker. So he's probably calling around the league as every other team is. Right. They're calling around saying, listen, who do you want for this guy? You want for this guy? Well, we'll take a conditional 7. We'll take a conditional 6. We just want a draft pick. That's fine. We just got to get this guy off our roster without cutting him for nothing, to come back to. So they do have a very young squad, though. They do. There's a lot of young players on this team. With the release of Brandon Powell a little bit earlier today, the Bills have 10 wide receivers. Some of those guys are you want. They may not make it down there to the practice squad. So, and there's a lot of those guys that, okay, what are we going to do? What do we have an option? Okay, you have the 2 things in front of you. Can we trade them? No, we can't trade him. Okay, we want to keep him here. All right, you want to trade him or you want to keep him here? All right, we want to keep him here. All right, is he over 4 years of service or under 4 years of service? Okay, if he has under, obviously you got to waive him. If he doesn't, you can cut him. And the guys that have the over 4 years of service, those are the guys that they're talking to. It's like saying, hey, listen, we're going to cut you, but we're bringing you back once we IR a few guys. We're going to bring you back. All right, do you agree to that in principle? I mean, that's the tough part, as you were talking about earlier, Paul, is the fact that some people could say, like, no, this team offered me, a 3-year deal for and I gotta go. I gotta make some money.
And that's why some of the comments from Brandon Bean the other day, where Brandon Bean even admitted he was getting phone calls about the defensive end and the defensive line position. That tells you that there are some thirsty teams out there. And if you're looking at some of those teams saying they're playoff teams, then if you do cut Mario Addison, just as an example, right? And you're saying, listen, don't go anywhere. We're just going to bring you back the next day. Don't go anywhere. But another competing team calls with a better offer. This isn't something you can lock in. You can't say, listen, Mario, we had a deal. No, you didn't. You let him go of that deal, and anything he did after that is completely his call, right? We did get a question from Matt, I believe it was. Yeah, Matt Ronkowski. He said, what do we do if we end up trading Mario Addison? So Mario Addison's going to cost you $4 million to trade because of the salary cap money based off of his signing bonus, right?
Prorated,
it's going to cost you $4 million to cut anyway. It's a wash. It's a wash. It doesn't matter. So trade versus cut, it's all basically the same. So
Bills are currently $7 million under the cap.
Right.
Just to let you guys know. And with that as well, Paul, if you cut a player or you trade Mario Addison, can you prorate their bonus over multiple years?
If you cut a player
of dead money? Yeah.
You can if they're a post June 1st release, right? So they could push, like, his signing bonus money would be $4 million. They could push $2 million and $2 million.
I was just
bringing
the point up because I think the Bills had done that before.
Yeah,
with the contract.
Well, and let's just, with Mario Addison specifically, let's not forget overthecap.com has his entire salary is guaranteed. The signing bonus money, you're already on there, and they got rid of 2022 on his contract. I think they fully guaranteed his $4 million base salary. So Mario Addison to cut is he's going to cost what he costs, $8 million to cut. What's he going to cost to trade? $4 million. So obviously trading him is a better option. But if you cut him, there's almost no difference, right? There's almost no difference.
Bills just traded Bam Johnson to the Panthers.
Did they really?
That's what Backbone came in the chat.
That is not a shocker, to be honest with you, right? Bam Johnson was a player who had quite a bit. Yep. Look, we're getting another one. Jacob says the same thing. Not a surprise. Young defensive end, showed a lot of promise in the preseason, primarily special teams player, and numbers, right? Numbers moved you out of him, right? Like that's fair to say, right? The numbers moved him out.
Oh, yeah.
I like Bam Johnson, and people are going to probably be a little gun shy of this because of Wyatt Teller. Like, we traded away a great player.
For Ian Rappaport.
Okay, so Rapp says the same thing too. Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to check it before we kept talking about it.
No, and Matthew Harmon said the same thing per Ian Rappaport. So you're trading away a player, but you're getting an asset back, right? You're trading a player that you probably were going to end up having to cut. Right? Because
essentially, he would just sat on your practice squad.
That's the thing. You'd have to waive him anyway.
Yes.
Trade him. Right? A player you're going to have to waive because he's not going to make your roster.
Here's the thing. He would have, but here's the thing. He's been waived before.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Why did Carolina just not want to wait? What were they in the draft order? You know what I mean?
But at this point, why not? Right? Why not? Go get a guy that you think is going to be able to help you. Because you don't also have to kick somebody off your 53-man roster at this point. I mean, they will tomorrow, right? So the reality is they're going to have to kick somebody off their 53-man to add Bam Johnson. But don't be gun shy about this. This is what good teams do. You take assets that you can't utilize that you were going to get nothing for. They were going to waive Bam Johnson. By trading him, they were likely going to waive him and try and get him on the practice squad. Obviously, teams were calling. You make the deal. Right.
So here's the deal, Paul. Here's the deal. Now, as we mentioned before, I just wanted to just throw this out there. If you're going to waive him, Carolina said Carolina could probably have waited. Mm-hmm. The way that it works, when you're waived, prior to the trade deadline, if you're waived, it's subject to the same draft order. It's subject to the draft order.
Right.
Afterward, it's reverse standings order. So basically, how it works is this: was Carolina worried that Jacksonville, the Jets, San Francisco, Atlanta, Cincy, Miami, or Detroit would have taken him.
How many teams are in their division?
2.
So half their division is below them?
Yeah.
Yeah, you worry about that, right?
You do? Okay. You know,
right? I mean,
isn't
that
Atlanta would be the first one for me. Atlanta would have been the first one for me because they're trying to replace young talent.
Mm-hmm.
They're always trying to get young talent because they're always against the cap. But I mean, that notwithstanding. So Miami and the Jets were in there. Those two guys do have first and second crack. Plus with the fact of, I mean, I don't think the Jets would have went after him because they just got Lawson.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't think that, but great point though. I mean, maybe this is Carolina doing a favor, saying, "Hey, we'll give you a 7th if you can hook us up."
Yeah,
with this defenseman."
we
don't want to subject him to waivers to try to lose him. And blah blah blah.
Compensation is compensation. The Bills were going to get nothing for it, and they had made the decision that they were deep enough at defensive end. Which you have to look at. This probably says F.A. Obata makes the team. I saw that in the chat. You're probably looking at Obata making the team.
Absolutely.
This is also further saying you're probably not cutting Mario Addison at this point. Probably not cutting Jerry Hughes.
No.
This is your group of 4, and that's not uncommon. The Bills have often kept between 4 to 5 defensive ends, so we're right in line right now. Right, you're right where you'd expect to be. F.A. Obata kind of being that guy that can float between defensive tackle and defensive end. So I really feel like this is probably saying Obata makes it.
Well, I mean here's the thing I'm saying. Here's the thing I'm saying. Just to really go back up on Johnson, though, I like the kid. I think he had a lot of things. But the way that the Buffalo Bills have gone with drafting and the development of players over the past few years, they had an embarrassment of riches.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of you got a 7th round pick for the guy. I don't believe he was drafted either, was he?
Not that I don't think so. I'd have to look. I don't remember.
And for those of you that are saying that they probably should have got more, they only got a 7th rounder. Remember, Dane Jackson was a 7th rounder. So,
well, it's assets, right?
And it's conditional. So if he starts a certain amount of games, you never know what's going on. Bam Johnson was a 7th rounder. Oh, so they got their money back.
Yeah, so they replaced it. Money back guarantee.
Thanks, Pierre. Appreciate it. Always picking me up. I love it.
Yeah. So I'm okay with this. Right. I know people are going to be upset because it's a young player. But again, that's the difference between a veteran player and a young player. A young player on a controllable contract, right?
Yes.
That you're going to have to waive in order to get them onto your practice squad. You have to look at moving them for assets when it comes down to the wire. When you're looking at your board, like, I don't think he's going to make it. That's a perfect example of a player they didn't feel was going to make the practice squad. So they just decided to pull the trigger, get an asset because they were likely not going to be able to keep him. Right. That's a beautiful example. Perfectly timed. Thank you, Brandon Bean, for making a great example. Right. That's the deal. Right. That's the deal. Josh asks, can y'all do a quick recap for those of us stuck at work? So here's kind of the deal, right? As of right now, we know of what? Bam Johnson is gone.
Joe Johnson got traded to the Panthers for a conditional 7th rounder. Right. And we also know that Powell, running back Kareth White, and cornerback Tim Harris have all been waived/released.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the contract details on the over 4 years service, under 4 years of service. I'm
sure they're all
they're all waived.
Yeah, they're all waived. So
they're all waived.
But that's not uncommon. Buffalo actually has a tendency to waive their young players a little early. Kind of get you an opportunity to test the market, right? You throw it out there, see what's out there. Great to see where teams are snagging up players, but remember, you waive them now. That means they got to make a 53-man roster later. So any team that claims them, those players are going to end up having to make that 53-man roster. So do with it as you will. But I don't know how this roster is going to shake up. I really don't.
It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, just to see how the moving parts will go. But basically what we wanted to do for today is we wanted to, give you guys the difference between what does waived versus released mean. Mm-hmm. Released, you have over 4 years of service in the NFL. You're waived if you have under 4 years of service. If a team happens to claim a waived player, it's not any team. If a team happens to claim a waived player, they get the current contract of that player and have to put them on their 53-man roster.
Right.
If you make the 53-man roster and get IR'd, you can IR as many players as you want and then bring in any other players that you want on your 53.
Right.
Once the 53-man rosters are established tomorrow, any player can be signed off of another team's practice squad, but once again has to go directly to the 53-man roster of the team. Then he gets signed on. As of right now, if a player gets waived up until the trade deadline, what happens is it will be about the draft order. Okay, that's how it goes in order. So every team has a chance at that guy, but it has to go in draft order. So any player that's waived on any team, the Jaguars get first crack at him, basically. Then when the trade deadline hits, it goes in reverse standings order. That's why trying to claim a player last year when they got waived for the Buffalo Bills last year, any player that gets quote unquote released after the trade deadline is waived. The Bills were like third at the trade deadline. The Bills were like third to last because of the record. They couldn't claim anybody. So basically the shifts that happen and the things that happen, Paul and I just wanted to come on here real quick and tell you guys, don't be surprised if you see some bigger names get released and then signed to the Bills the next day. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, and I think it's less. We got asked about, were there any potential targets from Pierre asked, are there any targets from other teams the Bills should look at? The fact of the matter is, right, this team is pretty stacked. If it's not a corner or safety, I don't really think they're all that much interested. And you're likely looking at a veteran anyway. Okay. So Kyle says we got a 6th rounder for Bam.
6? That's even better.
Yeah.
Did Breida get traded to Baltimore yet?
Not yet. Todd Gurley's still on the market, baby. Todd Gurley's still on the market. Gurley's still on the market.
So's Freeman, isn't he? Where's Devonta Freeman?
Freeman signed somewhere, actually.
He did? Oh, okay. I'm just messing around. Somewhere. Because he was here last year, wasn't he?
Sure was. So enjoy the roster gymnastics. Enjoy the crazy. Don't believe anything you see for the next 48 hours on this Bills roster because there's a lot at play. If you see the Bills go after anybody, again, I'd kind of imagine it'd probably be a veteran. For those of you who are just joining us, make sure you also join us for the hashtag Sports Golf Tournament to benefit Matthew 25 Farms, September 11th. The only way Mario and I get on a golf course is if we plan a tournament and bring you idiots with us. So come hang out with us. Absolutely. Please, we're going to do a live show right afterwards. We're all going to have dinner. It's going to be a great time. Silent auction, contest. It's going to be a blast. So if you're in town for the game, it's the day before the home opener. Come hang out with us.
A rapid fire live session with Paul. Ask away.
Right. And Johnny brings up a great point. So the Bills would be smart to shore up their roster and allow team to fill up their waivers by jumping on early. That's right. Get these guys gone now, because if teams make commitments to them, they're going to make ensuing moves and you get to test the market, right? If teams are picking up these younger players on waivers, you know where their weakness is, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And the Bills have been really good. I'll just add this in really quick right at the end. The Bills have been really good of taking care of players that they no longer require their services.
Right.
In the fact of they release them early enough to test out the market of whoever's out there. In the case of Duke Williams, they didn't need to do anything. They didn't need to do it when they did it. They could have done it today. You know what I mean? But they were letting him get out there, make some calls and see what's going on out there. So, good on them.
Yep. All right. Hey, Mar, remember I said we only got 10 minutes?
30 half hour
minutes later. Yeah, that was half hour ago. All right, guys, thank you so much. Again, just to Sports Hub real quick, you did ask why did the Bills trade Bam? He was going to be waived, man. The Bills were going to lose him for nothing anyway. So if he wasn't going to make the roster, they were going to try to slide him down. It wasn't going to happen. Obviously, if they're getting phone calls on him, you're not going to get him on your practice squad. Carolina could have picked him up. And one last thing about waivers. I want to throw this out there. Waivers are not if Jacksonville picks up a player, then the next player that becomes available, another team gets. No. Jacksonville is waiver priority, period, for all of them. It doesn't matter how many players they pick up.
Here's my question. What if Jacksonville waives somebody?
I know, right?
Do they get him back? They get him back immediately?
That's it. Whoop. No takebacks.
Okay.
No takebacks.
Sorry. We didn't mean that.
Gotta be quicker than that.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a great one. We love you. We'll talk to you guys soon. Later. Hashtags Paul. Mark.
Yep. Which side?
There you go. Mario.
I'm over here, you dumb idiot.
I suck at this. Bye, guys.
See you later, boys.